Yo, what's up guys, my name's Hakiii, and in this video we got the best current off-road vehicles in GTA Online. I thought I'd make an updated version of this one just because the last one I made was a long time ago. So we got the 10 best ones in this video, starting with the Outlaw. The Outlaw is a super unique looking off-road vehicle. As you can tell, there's nothing that looks even remotely close to it in game. The wheels are attached to the body of the car by springs, which you don't see on any other vehicle in the game. This is one of the coolest looking vehicles when it comes to how unique it is. It's got some decent customization, and when it comes to handling, it's got okay speed. The acceleration's not bad, and then the brakes are actually really strong. Unfortunately, it has a steeper price tag, which I personally feel like is a little overpriced. At over $1.2 million, I'd only recommend this if you have the money, because other vehicles might just be a better deal for you to come. Still a very cool off-roader nonetheless. Moving into number 9, we have the Vagrant. The Vagrant is another very unique looking off-road vehicle, and it's got some fantastic performance. It's basically the Outlaw, just a little bit better and a little different looking. It's similar to the Outlaw because they're both fairly light vehicles. We're gonna look at some other vehicles down the road in this video which are a lot larger and weigh a lot more than these two. This vehicle is fairly fast. It's got some great traction, and going through the customization you can also find some decent liveries. Now, because the vehicle is so low to the ground, when you hit certain bigger type bumps when going off-road, you might just get lifted up into the air if you're driving at a high speed. It makes sense because the vehicle is so low to the ground, and it almost feels like you're driving a go-kart, just a little bit bigger than it in the off-road class. If you're driving through a track that has a lot of bigger type bumps, I wouldn't really recommend this as much, but if the surface isn't as bumpy, then this car would be very good for it because it's gonna absolutely be zooming through it. It really comes down to personal preference, whether you like the fact that the body of the vehicle is so low to the ground, or you prefer one with bigger wheels and just a higher distance between the ground and the body of the vehicle. The unfortunate thing, like with the Outlaw, is that the price is pretty steep at $2.2 million before upgrades. Next up, we have a pretty armored type off-road vehicle, which is the Patriot mil-spec. It came out in the Contract DLC, and it looks super cool in my opinion. It kind of reminds me of like a modern day like armored military type vehicle. I don't know. It's got different armor options which you can put on it, so it is pretty armored. And a big bonus with it is that you can put a Monty Tech, which means you can put a missile lock-on jammer, so all weaponized vehicles cannot lock onto you with homing missiles. That's a super useful protection feature, and we're not going to have that on many vehicles on this list. And I mean, there aren't many vehicles that have the Monty Tech upgrades on them in the game overall. Not only is it a very armored vehicle, it's also weaponized. You can put a machine gun on the front of it. It's not going to be anything super crazy. Don't expect the gun to blow up any car in like 2 seconds, but it's still a machine gun, and it's nice to have it on there. Now, because it's armored and weaponized, and it's just overall very good in that field, obviously, understandably so, it's not going to be incredible when it comes to performance. Don't expect it to be super fast. It's just not fast, and it's not a vehicle you want to use for races because it just doesn't shine in that category. And also, I'll mention it's got some great customization options with different liveries, like truck bed options. I really like it. You can get this vehicle in the Southern San Andreas website for about $1.7 million. Not that bad of a price tag if you ask me. Next up, we have a different type of vehicle that's not even necessarily in the off-road class, but it's good for off-roading still, and that's why I'm including it on this list. We're talking about the Streeter, or the Strider, however you want to pronounce it. It's based off a Mercedes, and it almost looks like an SUV if you ask me, but it's actually in the sports class. The wheels of the car have more of like a wide placement, which is pretty interesting, and it has a decent distance off the ground, so that's a little better for if you're going through bumps. And finally, we have a somewhat affordable option. It only comes in at $500,000 before upgrades and customization. I definitely think that's a pretty good price for what you're getting. The Strider is a fantastic choice for off-roading. It's got great speed, good acceleration, and going up steep hills, you shouldn't have too many problems with this thing. Next up, we have the Desert Raid. A lot of people like to compare this one with the trophy truck. You guys can pick either or. Personally, I like the Desert Raid. The Desert Raid has some crazy acceleration when going off-roading. Like, there's literally like nothing like it. Out of nowhere, you could go like 0 to like 50 miles per hour very quick with it. It's almost pretty unexpected when you take a look at this vehicle. The top speed isn't anything insane, which is honestly fine because you don't need to be driving at like 150 miles per hour off-roading. That's a very rare occasion. The only thing I found with it is because it's so fast sometimes, when going over bumps, it does tend to just bounce around a little bit too much. You can flip over every now and then, but overall this vehicle does perform pretty well off-roading. Despite it bouncing from bumps a little bit too much sometimes, I do still think it's very fun to drive around while off-roading, and you can buy it in the Southern San Andreas website for just under $700,000, which is not that high of a price. Next one is the Comet Safari. Like the Strider, it is actually not technically in the off-road class. It's a sports car, but it's very good for off-roading, especially the handling of it. It's very easy to control, and for off-roading on relatively flat surfaces, it's pretty quick as well. What's nice about it is that you can have a machine gun on it, which is obviously very useful. Like with the Patriot mil-spec, it's not going to be the strongest machine gun in the world, but again, it's nice to have it. And yet again, a pretty fair price tag at $710,000. You can find this one in the Legendary Motorsport website. Moving into the top 4 now, I absolutely love all 4 of these, but let's go into number 4, which is the Helion. The Helion, first and foremost, has amazing customization. Some of the best customization out there for off-road vehicles. It has tons of bumper options, hood options. You can mess with the look of the engine in the front of it. You have some decent roof options as well. You can put a light bar on the top, which then just gives you more light, I guess. Anyway, customization is phenomenal with the Helion. And one last thing about it, I mean, it's got liveries, of course. That's awesome. Now, besides customization, it does perform pretty well off-roading. I wouldn't really use it for races just because there's a little better options coming, but for general off-roading and free mode, this could definitely be very fun to drive around, especially rocking the awesome customization you put on it, since there's just such a big variety. For $835,000, you can definitely get a very solid vehicle. Moving into number 3, which is the Caracara. First and foremost, this vehicle looks amazing. One of the best looking trucks in the game, if not the best looking one. You can argue about it in the comments. Let me know what you think. You know what? It's the best looking truck from the front of it, at least, because the back isn't anything too special, but from the front, this thing is stunning. I decided to slap on some F1 wheels on it, and I do think it looks pretty freaking cool. Driving it around is good. It handles pretty well. Good amount of speed to it as well, and when it comes to tipping over, I haven't really tipped over much with it, which is kind of surprising considering this thing is pretty thin. Or not thin, but more narrow, I should say. When you look at it from the back, you can see that it's not a very wide vehicle at all, but overall, I would definitely use this thing for general off-roading and free roam, not as much in races. You can get this thing for $900,000, not incredibly overpriced. Now, the truck I would use for races is the Camacho, which comes in at number 2 on the list. The Camacho is one of my favorite vehicles in the entire game because of the price of it, the customization, the performance. This thing literally hits all bullet points. I don't know whether I should have put it number 1, but honestly, number 1 and number 2 on this list are both incredible. Now, this is definitely gonna come to some of you as a surprise, but the Camacho is actually the cheapest vehicle in this entire video, and it's number 2 on this list. Could have easily been number 1. It's only $345,000 in the Southern San Andreas website. After all the upgrades and customization, it might be around $600,000, if not less than that. So overall, you can get a fantastic off-road vehicle fully upgraded for about $500,000, which is such a good deal. It is great value. It's really worth your money, and it might be the best deal for a vehicle you can find in GTA Online as a whole. I don't know if there's a better deal than this one. It performs super good as well for races. This is definitely what you want to use. It is top tier for off-road races. It's extremely fast. It's elevated off the ground, so it's good for bumps as well. Acceleration's good, decent handling. There's really nothing wrong about it. And in the customization, you're gonna find a lot of cool stuff like different liveries, door options, roof options, truck bed options. There's so many customization options. Very nice variety indeed. And with that being said, let's move on to number 1, which is the Draugr. The Draugr is safely the most futuristic looking off-road vehicle I've ever seen, not only in GTA Online, but as a whole in my life. It looks like it's from the movie Transformers, and it could turn into a Transformer at any moment. I feel like it's very unrealistic how good this vehicle actually is, because the performance is near perfect, really. Super good acceleration, great top speed, it handles well, it has just the right height off the ground as well, and you literally can't go wrong with this vehicle. If you can afford it, this is literally the best option, maybe along with the Camacho, but the Camacho is cheaper, so then starts the argument which one is better and which one is more worth it overall. overall. Once again, you can argue about it down below in the comments, but this one is definitely a lot more expensive than the Camacho. It comes in at just under 1.9 million, and after fully upgrading it, I'd estimate it to be just over 2 million in total. And let me know if there's any vehicle you think I missed in this video. Now click the video on screen now if you want to see the best sports cars you can use currently in GTA Online. I hope you all enjoy that video, and peace.